Friends, it's Terri Gaines. In this video tutorial, I'm going to share details on some cards I created with the Charming Duck Pond bundle. This bundle is in Stampin' Up's new 2024-2025 annual catalog. You can get the two together bundled for a 10% savings or purchase them separately. The stamp set has 18 images, 4 sentiments, all of these images that can be cut out with the dies, plus these images that will help you color in these images with ink pads. There's also these dies and this window die to be very creative with. For the cards I'm going to share in this video, I use two different types or different packets of designer series paper. For 3 of the cards, I use the Lily Pond Lane 6x6 paper. This paper is so cute. It's got some cute images on one side, and then on the background or the back side, there's some background designs. So I looked at the background designs, and I'm making a card with the pretty and pink papers. I'm going to make a card with the peach pie papers, and I'm going to make a card with the gray granite papers. The other cards are made with the Country Woods 12x12 paper. You get 2 each of the 6 double-sided prints. All these prints have wood grain, so I have used this for my inspiration for the other 3 cards. And I also use a card sketch, our Inking of You card sketch 79 for inspiration also. So let me talk about the card sketch before I get into the details of the card. So with the card sketch, it's inspiration. You can change the layer sizes, you can eliminate the sentiment, change the size of the decorative image. It can be more than one decorative image. There's so much versatility with the card sketch. The card base can be 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4 or folded in half, and that's what I'm using. You could also use a card base that is 11 by 4 1/4, folded in half, or scored and folded at 5.5. I'm going to use this for my card base. As I mentioned, the layers can change in size. This next layer is 5.5 by 4, and so it's the same width as a card base. I actually chose to create most of them smaller in height because I wanted more of the card base to show. So you can modify that. Then what you have are all these different layers. I've used designer series paper for the different layers. Now this is a great card sketch to use with your scraps of designer series paper, but it could be cardstock, it could be texturized cardstock or stamped cardstock. So I actually, for all of my cards, I added a layer of cardstock behind the designer series paper. That's optional. So I just made it slightly larger. And for assembling this, when you see all of these layers wondering where do I start, I'm going to show you where I started. I started with this 1 by 1 square, and I adhered that first. So I just kind of looked at the spacing for that. So I adhered that one down. Then I looked at this bigger layer and I adhered that, overlaying that 1 by 1 square a little bit, and I looked for equal spacing on the top and the bottom. Then I have those 2 layers. So what I did for that is I took the one in the back, I took the one in the front, put adhesive on that, and then I put it a little bit higher here, and then I did equal spacing on both sides. Then I put more adhesive here, and then I looked for the equal spacing on the top and bottom and overlapped that a little bit. So that's how I got these pieces layered. Now your decorative image can be any shape or size, and the sentiment can be added or eliminated or moved somewhere else. So that's kind of the basics of the card sketch. So let me share the first 2 cards I created. I have one with the Country Woods and one with the Lily Pond Lane, and both of them I used the same kind of design for my image. I have one for this one, I stamped that one with the Memento ink because I colored it in with the blends. For the other one, I used the Early Espresso ink pad. I could have used the Memento, but I used the ink pad, and I colored that one in with stamps. So let's talk about this one first. So the reason I chose the colors I did, because if you look at the designer series paper, all of these images are colored in to coordinate with the designer series paper. So I used this for inspiration to color in. So what I did was I took the blends. The blends come in a light and dark. So I took the dark for the peach pie, and I used that for the beak and for the feet. Now you have a bullet tip and a brush tip. I like working with the brush tip. It's got a fine point to it, and what you can do is just place that tip. As soon as you touch your cardstock, the ink is flowing, and you have a really fine detailed tip to help you color in those fine details. As I mentioned, I colored that in using the designer series paper for my inspiration. I used balmy blue, gray granite, granny apple green, and the peach pie. And then I also added these embellishments. They're part of the suite, and they go really well because they're the peach pie for that one. Now I mentioned I used stamps to color this one in. So how I did that is these stamps, as I showed in this, you have stamps that will help you color in these images. So the beauty of that is what you can do is stamp this first, and then, for example, for the feet and the beak, it's all one stamp. So you want to just tap, tap, tap. You want your ink just to be on the surface. And this one is for this duck. So let's see if I can do this. I'm hopefully still on the camera, and I got a different angle here. So I don't know that I'm going to get this right, because to get the best angle, I would have to put my head right where the camera is. But when you stamp that, you're going to get both of those colored in at the same time. And then I use that for all of them. Each one of these has a stamp to color in the beak and the feet, even this little guy. Then what you have, I did the peach pie, and let's see, where did I put those other stamps? Here, I just had them, oh, right here. So this one is going to color in this duck all at one time. So I'm going to tap, 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 and let's see if I can get a better view of this. Let's see, maybe I'll look. So what you do is you look at everything, all sides, place that down, and there I've colored in that portion of the duck. Now for this other duck, I have a green head on it, and then I have the old olive, and then I have the peach pie here. So how I did that one is I took both the old olive and the pecan pie. Sorry, I sometimes misspeak. So sometimes I catch myself, other times I don't. So what I did is I took this and I tapped my ink in just the pecan pie. Boy, too many. Peach pie, pecan pie, pumpkin pie. That's why I'm getting confused. And then what I did is I took the stamp and just put that portion in the old olive. So right on my stamp, I have two colors. And now what I'm going to do is place this down, and it's a good idea to practice a little bit before you go and try this all at one time. And then what I can do is stamp that and color it in. So I have a bad angle. I'm going to use that as my excuse that I'm not getting it stamped as perfect as I did for my other card here. Now when you do this, you can see you still have all this white space. What I did for that is I took a clear block, and then what I did was I took the crumb cake ink pad. I tapped my clear block into the crumb cake ink pad, and then I took a blender pen. A blender pen's got clear liquid in it. You can switch out your colors. What you want to do is just scribble till it gets clear if you used a different color. I use this as kind of like a palette. I'm going over this crumb cake ink, and then I'm coming in here and coloring this in. That's how I got that other color added. So what you can do is just come in here, and I colored the entire duck, and it blended in some of that pecan pie color, and I'm doing it quickly here, but you can work with this and take your time and go over it and blend it a little bit. Do note that you're going to start peel your cardstock. You got to be careful. You don't want to saturate it too much. And I did the very same thing here. So on this one, you know, you can just get this area a little bit darker. And if you need to, then you would add some more color here. So I'm just trying to give you all the details on how I did that. So you color that in and then finish coloring that, and I did the same thing for that. So that's how I colored these ducks in differently than I colored in these ducks. So that was fun to do. Now let's look at the next set of cards. So for this one, I've added some punches to the next cards. Both of them have the 2 3/8 inch punch and a 2-inch punch. For this one, it's 2 stamps. I stamped the Old Olive for the greenery part and the pecan pie for the cattail part, and then I added those adhesive dragonflies to that one. I used the background paper for the layer and all of those, so that was fun to do. For this one, I used the pretty in pink colors. You can see I added another layer here. I put all the white around here, these embellishments, and then for this I actually used the bow punch and the Petal Park punch, and I used the designer series paper for both of those. So what I did ahead of time, when I used the paper, it's 6 by 6, but I cut it in 1.5 inch strips because I just want this image. I don't need that one. So then I can put that in there and punch that out. And I've got that here, so I can punch that out. And I actually have 2 of them on here. I have one going that way and then a part of the one just tucked in here. What I tried to do with these flowers is kind of duplicate this print, this designer series paper. So I have a larger flower and then a couple smaller ones and then the little white ones over here. So that's for the greenery. And then this is a designer series paper, the same one I use for the layer. I've cut this at 1.5, and what I'm going to do is cut the big flower and the small flower, punch those, and then I'm going to use 2 of the big flowers. I'm going to punch that. What I did for those is I took a paper snips and I cut the petals to make them longer. So I cut in, I didn't cut in enough to cut the petals off, but long enough, far enough to make the petals longer for all of those. Then what I did is I took a bone folder and I used the edge of the bone folder and I folded the petals down a little bit on each side, meaning I just kind of wrapped it around the bone folder to create a longer, narrower petal for each one of those. So I did that for all of this and I duplicated that for that. And I did the same thing for this little guy. You can cut these petals in a little bit all the way around and then fold them down, and then you'll get a little bit longer petal. I also did it for this designer series paper and for that white. And here's what I got for these flowers here. I got that part done. So what I did for attaching this, I'm going to just share, I cut part of that stem off. It's a little bit too long. I took a mini glue dot and I picked up a mini glue dot. These are very strong, and I put it down to attach this greenery, and no 2 are going to look the same. I don't have it quite as high on that first one. And then I snipped a little bit of this off, the bottom 2 petals. And you can also, in this case, bring your mini glue dot or your item to your mini glue dot. Might be easier. And then I added one going off like this. Okay. Now to attach those flowers, I picked up the mini glue dot and I'm going to put it behind this one flower. Then I'm going to attach these 2, offsetting the petals. So I fill in that gap. You got those 2 attached. Then I'm going to grab another mini glue dot, put it behind the little flower, fold it in half and attach that. Then you can take these little guys, and I took the peach pie one, attach that in the middle, and then what I did for this one is I put that on with a dimensional, and I put the other ones on with a mini glue dot. So I'm going to put one dimensional there, and I'm going to place this guy right here, and then I duplicated that for these 3 flowers and added those. So that was just a fun way to bring in a floral design with that designer series paper. So that's how I created those 2 cards. Now the next 2 cards are very much the same, but just different paper. And I added more layering behind this happy birthday than I did not on this one. Both of these are using the cattail and then the duck dies. Both are using a folder. I used the Timber 3D folder for this one and the So Swirly embossing folder for that one. I also used adhesive sheets, and I know in previous videos I've shared how I use adhesive sheets. And with the adhesive sheets, you purchase these, they're in the catalog, and they come in 6 by 12. You get 12 in a package, and I'm going to bring in my Simply Scoring tool just to show you how I get this prepared. So I cut these to size, meaning the size of cardstock I'm going to work with is the same size as my adhesive sheet. So this is 6 by 3, and any surplus I keep in here because even small pieces you can work with. So my cardstock is the same size. What I like to do is put my cardstock in the corner. If there's a backing on this that has like a 2-inch width to it, you peel that off. And then this is sticky. This is still, the backing is still there. So with the backing there, upside down, the sticky part is right here. I keep the sticky up, push this in the corner, push this in the corner so they hit both walls, and then let the adhesive fall into place. Peel the backing off here, and then adhere that. Peel the backing off here, and then adhere that. So what you have once you get this part done, you have cardstock, your backing, and you have adhesive stuck in the middle. So now you would put this on your die cutting machine, you'd place your dies down, and you'd run it through. And when you run it through, then you're going to get your image cut out. And then on the back, you have that paper that you can peel off, and you're going to have adhesive on the back, and that's going to work perfect to attach to your project. So that's what you can do for the duck. Now, when I put this duck down, you can see that the eye is all the way through. You can have a white eye. If you want a darker color eye, what I would suggest you do is put something on the back of that eye. So what I do is I peel this adhesive back just temporarily. I'm going to take a piece of cardstock that is the same color. I'm going to take the dark blend, and I'm going to color in just a little bit of that cardstock. I actually am going to tear that off. Now what I'm going to do is take this and kind of create a patch in that eye. Now you can see if I put that patch on the back of the eye, oh goodness, let's see if I can get this to work. There you go. I'm going to put that. I'm going to cut this excess off. Now I have a darker eye there. So that's one way you can create that darker eye. Now also, I cut the wing out of the same color cardstock, and if you want that darker, you can take the wing, take the blend, and then color that in. And I always say you don't want to hear scratching, and I hear scratching. I'm kind of like trying to rush, and I shouldn't be doing that. Go real softly. You don't want to hear scratching. And if you go over it a couple times, you're going to get a little darker shade. And that's kind of nice. They'll get just a darker shade of your cardstock color. This also has adhesive on the back, so I can peel that backing off and attach the wing. So you got just another shade of that gray granite. So that's how I got that colored in. Now for the beak, what I did was I put adhesive sheet behind the peach pie. You get the beak and the wing at the very same time. I like to keep it in the die because it's so small. I keep it in the die until I'm ready to use it. I use my Take Your Pick tool to help get that backing off, and hold it with my Take Your Pick tool, and then you can lay it over that duck beak right there, get it to line up. Now you have a colored duck beak. I did the very same thing for this, but I used the wood grain papers, and then you can attach your duck to that. As I mentioned, you peel that backing off, you have adhesive. I did not cut the cattails and bring those over, but I put the cattails down first, and then I put this down, and then I adhered that to the project. I also took the dark blend and colored in the top part of the cattails, and for this one I just have the cardstock. So those are the details of how I created these cards. I thought it would be good to do a quick video because that way you can actually see how some of these details were created. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Take care and happy creating.